I'd like to call this meeting to order, please, the December meeting, and thank you all for attending. I guess we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Can you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Just so you know, I can't think with this mask on. Okay, we have call to the public. I don't know if we have one.
We have
I think.
adoption of the agenda first.
I apologize. Totally can't think of it. All right, adopt the agenda with a change, please. We'd like to move item 9B to the beginning of number 8. Could I get that?
I'll make a motion to accept tonight's agenda with the removal of 9B in front of 8.
In front of 8A. Thank you. All right. There's a motion on the table. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Now we'll do the call to the public. And we do have one person who wishes to speak to the board. Where's it? Right here. Andres Montoya? Okay.
We'll get you a mic in just a second. I think he's going to move it right now.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay.
Superintendent Show, President Hubble, and ladies and gentlemen of the board, I just wanted to quickly introduce myself. My name is Andres Montoya. I'm with Southwest Food Service Excellence. We're a food service management company based out of Arizona. And just want to say hi, see some faces that with the names that I've been seeing lately, and just let you know that if there's any information I could help provide, please don't hesitate in reaching out.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And
Thank
just
you.
to provide a little context, we are going out for requests for proposal for food service.
Okay.
And I imagine Southwest Food Service will be one of the companies that will be providing a proposal on that RFP. So just so you understand it a little bit. Oh, you got that, yeah.
Oh,
Perfect.
Thank you. Okay, item 6A, the superintendent's report, please.
All right. Superintendent's report. Enrollment, there's a sheet that looks like this, and it has on one side FY21, on the other it says FY20. From FY, and actually the FYs are incorrect. No, they're correct. We have gone down 139 ADM from last year's 100th day to this year's projected 100th day. And it's about where we have been all along, that we talk about this every month, and it's about that same amount. That is, remember, that is not bodies. We actually have more bodies that we've lost than 139. Due to kinders are only counted as half. And that's probably the cohort of kids that we've lost the largest number of kids in. And I don't want to say lost because we never had them to begin with. It's just the thinking is that parents are keeping their kids home instead of sending them to kindergarten. And so we're hopeful that next year we'll pick up those kids that didn't come to kindergarten this year. But that's a significant loss of revenue. We did get this week information about what's called the Enrollment Stabilization Grant, which is basically CARES money that the state had that they're giving to school districts to help compensate for this loss in enrollment. And that works out to be $800,000 that a little bit more than $800,000 that we are getting from the Enrollment Stabilization Grant. That will cover this amount, and in a conversation that Rebecca and Cindy and I had this week, we were using that money to cover salaries, which is really where the money that we lost would have gone to cover mostly salaries. So that's where that Enrollment Stabilization Grant is going to do, is to cover teacher salaries for, 50 or so teachers, give or take, I think is what we decided. So it's disappointing that we're down. It's not unusual that we're down. We've talked about that before. There's just, I think, 50,000 kids in the state that they can't account for. 1,200 kids in Yavapai County they can't account for that were enrolled last year and not enrolled now. So it's not unusual, or it's not isolated just the Chino Valley. This is a statewide and actually, I think, a national issue overall. This morning, and it always happens right before our board meeting, or at least it has, several of us went out and got to recognize our staff members of the month. And I want to give a huge shout out to Donna Webb from JEDS. She's the one that is sponsoring this, and she gives out a little goodie bag that has a cupcake and a water bottle and a gift certificate that each of these people get. At Territorial, our teacher of the month was Dominique Arias, and our staff member is Hunter Horscombe. At Del Rio, our teacher is Janice Dunn, and our staff member is Crystal Smith. At Heritage, our teacher is Joy Efren, and our staff member is Crystal Fobert. At the high school, our teacher is Linda Roundtree, and our staff person, it says, I didn't erase the Christine in there, it's just Lucy Swope. And I want to give a special shout out for our district staff. It's actually members, because we recognize the IT team. And the reason we recognize the IT team was they stepped up and did a great job for us this semester with all the IT needs that we had in the district. So we wanted to recognize the whole team because of the extra work that they put in to help us have a successful semester so far. So that's our staff members of the month, and again, thank you to JEDS and Donna Webb from JEDS as our supporting sponsor. We have the COVID-19 data dashboard. This went live a week or so ago, and you have a copy of the front sheet of the dashboard. Looks like this. There's actually 5 additional pages that I didn't print out. This is just the cumulative totals. And there's one for each school. And then there is an additional page for district staff. So it'd be transportation, the district office, and the facilities department. Sodexo's it's a different organization, so we don't really include them right now. So this gives you the cumulative number. These are the week, and it's the week starting, it's a Monday, so the week starting each of those times. And the quarantines typically last 14 days and isolations 10 days. And so these are the dates that they started their isolation or a quarantine. And so that's important to know that they last multiple weeks, but these are the weeks that they started. And so if someone had a quarantine starting on the week of the 23rd, it actually go 14 days. So it actually goes for 2 weeks. Okay, and they'd miss 8 work days. And in that case, they only missed 6 because 2 of those work days were a holiday. But this is live. As I update it, it gets updated on the website. I try to do it once a day based on information provided by the district nurse and then also Karen, who keeps track of our staff. And this gives you an idea of what's going on in the district. This is available on the district website at chinovalleyschools.com. And
so clarify this, John.
Yes.
How many kids do we have positive for COVID in our district as of right now?
since we started to all in-person instruction, we've had 6 kids.
6 kids. And
But
how many have been recent?
We had 1 last week.
Okay, and then before that?
We had none the prior week. Then we had 3 the week before, and none the week before that, and 1 the week before that.
Okay, so we've had 1 in a week.
Last week we did.
Okay.
And we had the quarantine, and that one on campus has actually led to additional cases that weren't on campus. So those 28 kids that were quarantined,
Uh-huh.
at least one of them tested positive after being exposed.
Okay.
And so these are just on campus. Those quarantine numbers on campus, again, that's happening. And over here on the far right-hand side, that gives you the kids that called in. They either were a close contact or were positive, and it's the same with the staff members. They either were close contact or positive.
And how many staff members have we had that have tested positive for COVID?
On campus, I don't know, the staff that are quarantined or isolation, I don't know that number. But on campus, we have had looks like three staff members.
On which campus?
I think that the 1026 was the high school. 11-2 and 11-23 was, I don't recall.
Okay,
Without
so
looking
they
at
weren't all at the same schools.
What's that?
They were all at different schools.
I don't want to say that because I don't know without
Oh.
looking at the other sheets.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just trying to get an idea of where we're sitting
Right.
as far as our COVID.
Now, we've had to isolate or quarantine over 100 kids because of those few kids those 6 kids that were on campus. And some of those quarantines were because of staff also on campus that tested positive. But you can see the numbers of kids that were quarantined that never come to school are increasing significantly, and there's a 9 in there. But you gotta remember that was a short week, and we only had, a lot of the reporting that happened after that week because of the holiday and so forth. So, but again, this is updated pretty much daily when I can. And I guarantee it at least once a week on Mondays, but I try to do it daily. And even though it says it isn't updated in the upper right-hand corner, it was updated today.
So yesterday, the students quarantined from off campus was 27 and just.
Today and yesterday.
Okay, today.
So in the 2 days that we've had this week, we've had 27 students so far quarantined.
Okay.
And I would imagine that there's kids that we're gonna see that, or staff members that were positive on campus. We usually get those at the end of the week, because they might have been on campus and didn't get sick until later, and then we find out that they were on campus. And in some cases, that happens, we get that data like a week behind.
Right.
So some of the data from 11-23, we didn't find out until the end of the week and wasn't even reported till like Monday. And then any other questions on the data dashboard? Lastly, just a reminder that we have a special board meeting next Tuesday at 3 p.m. It is meant to be it was initially scheduled for our budget revisions due on the 5th. There may be other things added, but right now that's the primary purpose, was the budget revision.
And what time is that at?
3.
3
3 p.m.
on Tuesday.
on Tuesday, December 8th.
Okay. We're just coming here.
It'll be in here.
Okay.
And that's not my report unless there's additional questions.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you, John. Item 6B, financial reports. Rebecca?
Okay, so I wanted these financial reports to be based off the December budget revision, even though that's not gonna be presented till next week. So I want it to be more accurate. So our budget did go down. We are at 0.57% left in our M&O. This time last year, we had 3% left. Our capital, we're at about 10% left. Last year, we had 40% left. And then our adjacent ways is the same as it has been. That hasn't really changed. Our, which you'll find out next week, our budget, we went down about $200,000. But it's probably gonna be worse come May revision because the online instruction.
The
hasn't
distance
been accounted
learning
for yet.
is our students that are on distance learning only get 95% funding. So that's not calculated
And
in
that's,
this.
yeah, that's not accounted for yet. Just our loss of ADM is accounted for.
The thing to remember is those 50 or so employees that we're gonna pay out of the Enrollment Stabilization Grant are included in M&O. So that money will be freed up once Rebecca makes those journal entries.
So Rebecca, do you anticipate any complications from the lack of money?
I don't think
For the rest
so.
of the
I mean,
year? Has everything been encumbered for the most part for the
I
year?
think we're gonna be okay.
Okay.
Only because we had such a huge carryover for this year. That really helped with the decrease that we're going to be having. Plus, the enrollment stabilization grant's gonna help a lot, so, I think we're going to end the year okay. We're not gonna end as good as we did last year, but we're gonna end okay.
And your concern, Cindy, was a concern I, and going through the numbers, it looks, like, how much what was the total that was on for the, all the COVID expenses? Do you recall?
It was, it's like 680,000.
And that's without personnel costs.
Right.
So there's additional personnel costs that would be on top of that, but we've spent 600,000 now. We got, the ESSER, the CARES money that will cover some of that. We're hoping to get a small, what's called a DEMA, which is, the Department of Emergency and Military Affairs. It's basically the state's FEMA. So it's hard to kind of gauge things unless you look at the whole picture, which includes M&O and grants and enrollment stabilization grants and CARES money. And so if you take all those things into account, it looks like we'll do okay. And that's a concern that I've had all along, that very thing.
Any other questions?
No.
Item B2, the student activity. Becca?
Okay, so not a whole lot going on with student activity. We have had girls soccer, had travel costs, volleyball has been ordering uniforms and supplies. But that's pretty much it. Not a whole lot going on with student activity right now.
Anybody have any questions? Okay, thank you. Item 7, approval of the consent agenda. Would appreciate a motion, please, to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Item 8, actually from 9A, the 2020-2021 quarter credits for CVHS.
Do they need a microphone?
There's one sitting right here.
I don't think it's plugged up.
Or no? Okay.
Rebecca is leaving, so we can just leave it up there.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, the cord.
Oh, that makes sense. I thought it was cordless.
So the Masked Crusaders, Heidi and Yvette are presenting.
Good evening, board members. Because we have a number of students that are online still, that haven't come back to full instruction, and we placed them onto Edgenuity online, the counseling staff, headed by Mrs. D'Angelo, and we have worked hard to come up with ways that we can help our students not lose their credit for first quarter. So she's going to go ahead and share what we came up with.
Okay. So before the students went online to Edgenuity, the ones that are doing online, they were at school for the first quarter, which was the 9 weeks. And one of the questions that I get asked repeatedly by parents is, well, what happens to those 9 weeks? Because we put those kids online. So my proposal was to give them the 0.25, because each semester gets 0.5 per class. So for that first quarter, we give them 0.25. And for all their classes. And this is only for the online kids doing Edgenuity. That means whatever they got. That includes A's, B's, all the way to F's. So we give them that 0.25. And then we give them another 0.25 for their Edgenuity classes. And most of them got 2 classes. Some are getting 3, some are getting 4. So we're going to give them another 0.25. And so the way it's going to look on the transcript is 0.25 for that first quarter and 0.25 for the Edgenuity. Because we couldn't give them all their classes, my other proposal was to test them out of a class they didn't get. Like, let's say they did world history. They got the 0.25 for the first quarter. We couldn't give it to them on Edgenuity for this semester. We can offer to test them out for that other 0.25, and they get a P for pass. They have to get 80% on that test. If they can't do that, we can offer them online summer school for those classes and just do probably the 50% of that class. So this is a way for them to get credits for classes for that first quarter, and also to give them the opportunity to make up for something we couldn't give them. So, and as far as the transcript goes, we're working with Kathleen Little to make sure that the transcript looks correct. And we won't be able to fix the transcripts till January, but we're gonna start with our seniors because those go out to colleges. So, but that is the proposal, and it's that, giving them that 0.25 for that first quarter, and giving them 0.25 for their edgenuity, and allowing them to test out for anything we couldn't give them, or do some kind of summer school for that second 0.25. Does that make sense?
Sort of, but does it affect their GPA, and will the colleges be able to interpret all of that?
Yeah, okay, great question. So if they test out, they get a P. So they will lose out a little bit. Well, they won't lose anything on the GPA because a pass doesn't do anything to their GPA.
Yes.
So that won't affect them. It doesn't affect colleges. They take pass. And with COVID, I can tell you that they've been extremely lenient. So they know this cohort coming out is going to have these issues. So, and that's just for the test out. As far as the 0.25 for let's say they did English, and they get the 0.25 for the first quarter, and they're doing edgenuity for the second. You know, let's say they get an A here and a B here. The colleges can ask us for that percentage. We can average it out for them. So it should not be an issue at all for colleges, as long as they meet the criteria, which they will, because they'll get the 0.5 for the semester.
And currently, we have about 55, 60 kids that are online.
Yeah.
That this will affect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this just is a way for them not to lose that credit.
Got it. Awesome.
Okay.
So-
All right, I think that's a good idea.
Any questions?
So we're just asking for approval.
Does anybody have any more questions?
I do not.
No,
Okay.
you asked my question.
The college.
Yeah.
It's real.
And
Yeah.
that's why we wanted to
Yeah,
make sure.
that's-
We-
yeah.
yeah.
This is an action item. Appreciate a motion, please.
I'll make the motion to approve the transcripts of 0.25 credits for the 2021 online edgenuity students who have passed their first quarter classes at the high school.
Okay. All right. Motion on the table. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Okay. Item 8, A, new health aid position at Tech.
So with everything going on, we have, at our schools, we have 3 health aides, one each at the high school, Del Rio, and Heritage. And then we have a district nurse at Territorial. Part of the district nurse's responsibility is to kind of track what's going on with COVID, and she is getting overwhelmed. And she, between that and taking care of the kids at Territorial, it's too much for one person. So at least temporarily, what we'd like to do is hire a health aide that would serve the kids at Territorial, bring the district nurse into the district office. She would still continue to support and supervise the health aides, but at the same time, she could concentrate also on the contact tracing, the parent contact. She's our primary contact with the health department, as long as COVID is impacting what's going on at school. So this is to relieve the district nurse for her to concentrate on COVID-related issues.
And do you guys already have somebody in mind for this position?
We did, but that person backed out. So it's been posted, but so
Okay.
it's currently open.
Okay,
And we'd love people to apply.
okay.
Are
Good to know.
there students at Territorial that need the services of the nurse rather than an aide? Or will the aide be able to fulfill those services?
We believe that the aide will be able to fulfill the services. If not, what would happen is it's typically on a scheduled timeframe.
Okay.
And she would just travel over there to perform whatever procedure needs to be done. For example, I think we have somebody that's tube fed over there. And we have actually 3 people, including her, the nurse, that can do that service. So
Okay.
she would be a backup in most cases when, say, somebody that has been trained to perform that is not available.
Okay.
Now, on the job classification, you have it marked nurse, but it's gonna be just a health aide?
Health aide,
Okay.
correct. It's not a nurse, it would be a
Okay.
health aide.
Okay.
Good question. Any other questions?
Nope.
This is an action item. We'd appreciate a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve, hold on. To approve the new health aide position at Territorial.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Item 8B, personnel report. Mr. Scholl?
There is a supplement, so please refer to that as well. We have one new classified, one new classified sub, 2 resignations, 5 classified changes, and 2 coaches, a relatively small and relatively small personnel report for this time of year.
All right.
Any questions?
Nope.
Is there gonna be boys basketball at the middle school?
We are putting that on there, but that's still up in the air.
Okay.
Because I'm going to be really angry if there is, because girls' basketball at the middle school was canceled.
Well,
But
right now, it would not take
Only at
place.
Heritage, not around other, Prescott continued to play.
It would not take place until at least January.
Okay,
It's nothing at the middle school is going to take place in December.
okay.
This is an action item, so we would appreciate a motion to approve with the supplement, please.
I'll make a motion for the approval of personnel report with supplement.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Item 8C, proposed 2021 classified salary schedule. Mr. Scholl.
So typically, we've been giving raises in January for our classified staff, which are our hourly staff. The reason has been, we've had huge increases in the minimum wage over the past 4 years. We actually want to move those normal raises to July, like we do our teachers and 12-month staff member, our administrators, that kind of thing. So we do need to adjust the salary schedule, however, for the minimum wage. The minimum wage is increasing only 15 cents. I am proposing increasing the minimum wage, our minimum wage in the district by 25 cents, so it's $12.25. When all this happened with the, I think it was Prop 206, we had a $9 an hour minimum wage, and the state was at $8.15. That allowed us to be more attractive to employees. I'd like to eventually get there, but just in baby steps, because it's more affordable that way. So we're adding 10 cents now, and if we add 10 cents next year, or whatever, eventually we can get to that point where we're, 50 cents or $1 higher than the minimum wage, more attractive to employees.
All right.
Any
So
questions?
this impacts the next one, which is a minimum wage adjustment to adjust for this, but this increases all the base salaries by 25 cents on the the salary schedule.
And it will be effective in January, right?
January 1.
Okay. Any more questions? This is an action item. Appreciate a motion, please.
I'll make the motion to approve the proposed 2021 classified salary schedule.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Item 8D, classified salary minimum wage adjustment.
So related to what we just talked about, in order to kind of keep people in line, I'm recommending giving everyone a 25-cent raise, which is just the increase in minimum wage. Then we'll give another increase in July that will account for the whole year. So you will no longer have to do any increases in January for our classified staff. But we just need to do this to get us through July. So all our hourly classified staff would get a 25-cent increase for the minimum wage.
Questions? This is also an action item. I appreciate a motion, please.
I'll again make the motion to approve the non-exempt classified salary increases beginning January 1st, 2021.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. Item 9A, the COVID instructional model. Mr. Scholl.
So this came up, some changes came up this morning. The first I want to do is share with you the benchmark worksheet, which is the one that has all the colors on it. The colors are up to date to last week, which was through November 8th. That's the data that goes into that. The information, so we have two benchmarks in the red and one in the yellow. And actually, we'll get Leslie Horton, who's the director of the county health department, on the line in just a few minutes, and she'll share some information with you as well and her recommendation. But talking to her today, we're gonna have all three benchmarks in the red. The Department of Health Services, the Arizona Department of Health Services, their recommendation is when you have three benchmarks in the red to go to distance learning. We'll have all three in the red, and not just a little bit in the red, substantially in the red. You can see that for example, cases, you go into the red at 100, I'm predicting that we'll have over 350 for this upcoming, which is the week of November 15th, before Thanksgiving's issues. We were that high, and so that's probably likely going to continue for a while, going up. Then the percent positivity is supposed to be 10%. Looks like in 2 weeks will be, which is the week of the 22nd, which is Thanksgiving week. Looks like positivity is going to go up to double that at 20. Hospitalizations, I don't have the numbers. By talking with Leslie today, we were at about 50% hospitalizations. 50% of the people going to the hospital are because of COVID-19. 10% is the threshold for the yellow, from yellow to red. We had an outbreak at the high school. What that means is that there was a student, or there was people that got COVID because somebody else on campus had COVID as well. So there's been transmission, what the county has designated as an outbreak at the high school, because there was transmission on campus. That was the first time that we've experienced that.
Which resulted in what?
Actually, a hospitalization.
A hospitalization?
Yes.
Of a kid that tested positive for COVID?
Correct.
How old is this kid?
I don't know how old he
Okay.
is. My recommendation is that we go to distance learning for the remainder, at-home distance learning for the remainder of the semester. Things are going to get worse. This is to protect our kids and our staff. This is also the recommendation of the county health department. So I'd like to get, with your permission, get Leslie on the phone so that she can share some information. We only may have 5 minutes or so with her. She's supposed to get on the phone with Prescott at 11:45. So she just texted me saying that she was available. Hopefully.
This is Leslie.
Hi Leslie, this is John Scholl. You're on speakerphone in our board meeting.
All right. Well, thank you for allowing me to join in. And I wanted to be able to help in any way I can with the board meeting. Is there anything in particular you want me to cover, or do you want me to just kind of give some information about where we're at?
I shared with them my recommendation for the district to go to at-home distance learning. And if you could just kind of talk a little bit with what you see happening in the county and what the department's recommendation or your department's recommendation would be in these instances.
Okay, I'd be happy to. And first, I want to thank you again for allowing me to join in. And I just want to say too that you all are very blessed and can be very thankful to have a very good superintendent who I've known for a long time. And I appreciate the fact that you as a board and your administration and superintendent are willing to change as the needs of a pandemic are changing seemingly daily. And we've had a really rough year. This has been obviously unprecedented. And we thought we had seen a pretty large peak in cases back in July, around the 4th of July weekend. But from what we're seeing right now, we have a substantial increase across our whole county, but also across our entire state. And and in some ways across the entire nation. And I guess the difficulty right now, more than even over the summer, is that we do have schools in session. We have businesses convening, and we can't tell by any means when this surge in cases, hospitalizations, and deaths will start to level out and to decrease. And so it is such a difficult decision to look at all of the dynamics of the pandemic, but then also weigh in the issues that we know will affect our children. And as a parent and someone who has lived here for a long time, it breaks my heart to know that many kids have to go home to an unsafe environment or are going to be home alone during the times that we send them home to do distance learning. And so I hope that even though this decision might be right for right now, that we don't have to maintain this very long. I'm hoping that our school districts and our communities can wrap care and support around this issue of COVID and figure out how to get schools back in session as quickly as possible. That being said, it's, it is incredible and a little bit scary to see what we're seeing in terms of case numbers and the rise of COVID-19 in our communities. Almost all of our major school districts are dealing with pretty intensive staffing shortages. Many cases in students, which have, what I can say for schools is that schools have done an incredible job of mitigating spread in the classroom. I think that Chino may have had a classroom outbreak, which is very unfortunate, but we have really been able to mitigate spread in almost all classroom situations across the county by following mitigation measures. But we are not able to necessarily protect all of the faculty and staff that are working in different areas of the schools and throughout the communities. And oftentimes they don't catch COVID at school, but they oftentimes catch it out in social gatherings or weekend events or other things that are happening in their life, and then bring it into the workplace or into the school. And so for the most part, most of our schools are considering closure or going to distance learning at this point because of faculty, staff, and bus driver shortages. But I can say, and you've probably already heard that many of our large school districts are considering this at this point in time. And so with the metrics, the schools are driven right now by ADE and ADHS, Arizona Department of Health Services metrics that show what level of spread we're in the community. And if you look today at the metrics that Arizona Department of Health Services shows for Yavapai County, it would show us in substantial spread, I think, in 2 categories, and then moderate spread in hospitalizations. But when I look at the real numbers of what we're dealing with today, and the fact that we've been averaging 149 cases a day for the last week, and that we have 83, I think, hospitalizations today, that half of all of our hospitalizations are COVID-19 positive patients, and the fact that our positivity rate has been hovering right around 25%, that puts us into pretty extreme substantial spread for all of those metrics if we were to look at today, and pretty much for the past week, possibly 2 weeks. And therefore, I can definitely support any school district at this point in making the decision to move back into online. And truly, for me, this is a last resort in a time when, I absolutely want our kids in school and know that that's best for their education, best for their safety, best for their social and emotional health. But with all that considered, we also have to look at the protection of our staff, our support staff, our faculty, and everybody else who is in this mix. And even just today, I've had parents that are irate and coming to my office upset because their schools are closing. And there are some suggestions that I would have based on some of the complaints that I've heard. Some of those being that some parents absolutely do need childcare for their kids. And so I would suggest, if you consider going to distance learning, that you do still continue to have what the state is requiring as a child care area, or a place where some kids can come and convene and get cared for and hopefully do their distance learning there. Also, consider, any alternatives for families that'll work for them. I really want this to hopefully work for as many people as possible, and we definitely don't want to lose more students to the detriments of having them home too long or not returning to school, those kind of things when we reconvene. And so, anything that we can do to support the families is very important. But I do feel like this decision probably needs to be made at this point in time based on the fact that we don't know yet the trajectory of what's going to happen between the holidays. We're not yet seeing the results of Thanksgiving holiday test results and spread that happened this past week, because test results are coming in later right now. But also that, we need to protect and care for our teachers to the extent that we're not putting them at undue risk and trying to do something that just doesn't make sense at this point in time. And like I said, it's a last case scenario in my mind that we go back to distance learning, but I do support the schools in their decision to do so if that's what they think they need to do at this point in time based on what we're seeing. So does anyone have questions for me or need more information?
I do. This is Dr. Bowen. With the positive test, is that COVID and flu together, or have they been separated?
No, those are COVID-19 only.
Okay.
So we have a MedSys medical record system that all of the COVID tests are entered into. Flu tests are also entered into that same system, but in a different category. So we're only sorting through cases of COVID-19, not flu diagnoses.
Okay.
So far, last I heard, we only had 1 or 2 cases of flu. To say right now, it's really high. What has happened in our county is that we have to make a call to each case after we've done contact tracing early on. We call them back after a month after they had COVID to find out if they've recovered. And at this point in time, we have not been able to make those recovery calls in the time frame that we're supposed to, because we've been overwhelmed by contact tracing. And so our adult recovery rate is extremely high. It's up in the 90%. And our kids is like 99%. It's very rare to see complications or severe illness in kids, but it does happen. In adults, we don't consider them recovered until they have totally cleared the illness. And if you look at the age ranges, there's a huge difference between the 20 to, say, 45-year-olds. And then as you get into 55 to 65-year-olds, there's a little bit lower recovery rate. And then from there, it goes downhill quickly. It gets, as advanced age, especially with underlying health conditions, are incorporated, the recovery rate gets lower and lower. We have this other situation with, like right now, we have numerous nursing homes with outbreaks, and that's driving our hospitalization rates as well as our death rates. And so if you have a nursing home in the mix or an assisted living site, that recovery rate is going to be much lower because of that substantial spread in a congregate setting as well as the complications.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
We may have to let her go because I know
Yeah.
she's got to be in another board meeting. Any last questions for Leslie?
No.
Thank you, Leslie, for giving us your time, and I'll talk to you later.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, and good luck with your decision making. I don't envy you right now all of your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
So a couple other things, and then this was actually put in the superintendent's report. There's something else that talks about the actual cases that are occurring here. And just a correction under Chino Valley case, it says 12 for today. That actually was adding 12, so that should be 301 is where it's at. And I included data for the last month.
And that's in our community, right?
Well, Chino, it's on if you look at the county health department's website, on a daily basis, it breaks it out by the number of cases for Chino Valley. I think what happens is, when somebody has it, they look at the zip codes and they can figure this out by zip code. And so for Chino Valley, there's been 301 cases to date, but if you look where we were a month ago, at 159, we've almost doubled in Chino Valley in the past month.
How many people live in Chino Valley?
12,000, give or take.
So out of 12,000 people, we have 301 cases so far.
Correct. But more concerning to me is that we've doubled the number of cases in the past month. So since the pandemic started in March, all the way to the end of September, or end of October, we had 159. In this month, we've had 140 something.
With a high recovery rate.
Correct. And then in Paulden, it's gone from, in the past month, from 80 to 106.
Okay, I'm gonna speak up. I'm feisty when it comes to this, and I'm not a political person. My politics have nothing to do with this, but I just look at the numbers, and I think one of the most important things that we can offer our children is education. And they are not getting a good education by being at home. They are not getting a good education by hybrid instruction. The best thing they can do is be in-person instruction. I watched my 16-year-old, who has been an extremely good student and has been in advanced classes, struggle over this since school started to get his grades up. And we are finally, and this is going in pretty much every day after school for him to get his grade back up, to get his grades up in general. I think it's I mean, you just heard Leslie say, the recovery rate's into the high 90s. We have one case at our high school right now. I'm struggling saying to pull the plug on these kids' education.
And I think if you listen to what Leslie said, though, she is not concerned about kids.
Correct.
She's concerned about kids' education, and everything you say, I completely agree with, Annie.
Yeah.
I'm concerned about our staff. And I'm concerned about having the staff to teach our kids. Right now, we have 18 staff members that can't work because they're quarantined.
What if we, I did some research before I came in here, and there's a lot of schools, like big schools in Phoenix, that are having them come in the hundreds, right? That they're testing, they're quarantining, and they're still giving it up to the parents whether or not they send their kids to school or not.
We may not have the staff. We may not have the staff to teach these kids.
And I agree with everything Annie's saying. I mean,
Absolutely.
we've talked about this. Everyone knows the struggles my child's had too, but at the same time, I'd rather him stay home and struggle than be in a classroom with 50 or 60 kids where he's still gonna struggle. Because if we don't have the staff, are we just going to double up our kids in the
Or
classrooms?
do we write it out? What are our options here? I'm just looking at the facts of things, and I'm not gonna tell you that I believe in this 100% positive testing and negative testing. I read a thing of one of the people who came up with the testing, and he was not even 100% sure that the testing works. We're just all going off of it, and at what cost? Our kids' education, and that is what we are here for.
Potentially our staff's health, though.
I get it.
And
I get
again,
it.
if we have to double up our kids, or triple up, or quadruple up, or whatever the case is, we're still being a detriment to their education and to that teacher. I personally would not want to go in and teach 100 kids at a time.
I wouldn't want to teach 5 kids,
Well,
all right?
okay.
Let's be honest.
Okay.
Well, you only got 3 to teach.
And a couple other things. I spoke to both Ben Montgomery and Chris Sheriff. Ben is our food service manager for Sodexo, and then Chris is our facilities manager. We have, and this has nothing to do with cases on campus, but we have openings that we cannot fill right now because of COVID. People don't want to work for schools.
People don't want to work.
Well, and I'm not arguing that, but people don't want to work for schools for what we pay.
Right.
I'll say that. If there is if we have staff that are leaving, or not that are leaving, if we have staff that are quarantined in those areas, we can't clean, which causes problems down the road because we're not maintaining the cleanliness at our school, and we may not be able to feed kids like we should be feeding them.
Or transport them.
You know, we are razor thin when it comes to some of our operations. Razor thin.
What, so here's a couple, I have questions. One, when are you asking for this to be effective? And my other question is that I think it would be horrible for us to say, we're making a decision, tomorrow you guys don't have school, because.
It's not tomorrow.
Okay.
This recommendation would be to start Monday. That would give staff, parents, and the kids at least 2 days in person to get ready for that at-home instruction. It would, right now, my recommendation would be just through the end of the semester, which is the 17th of, so it'd be 2 weeks, 8 instructional days.
And then we have 2 weeks of break.
And we actually have more, I think I figured out was 17 days with no school. Which is, and then when we come back, we'd have to make a decision before break, but we'd have at least 2 more weeks of time to figure out what January would look like. So I'm not advocating right now that you guys make the decision for the rest of the school year, or even into January. This would only be for the next 2 weeks, starting on Monday, which is the 7th, going through the 17th. So it's 8 instructional days.
And what happens? Are we doing, what is it?
It'd be distance learning.
Distance
So
learning.
those kids, and again, this is something that we worked out a little bit today as part of the district leadership team, and it will be worked out in more detail at the schools. But those, we would have teachers, the teachers that are doing the online stuff already, there's actually no change. They're not impacted. So we're just talking about the 90% of our kids, it's a lot, that are in person. So those kids, those teachers would get their Google Classroom, hopefully is already up and running, and those that have access would have access to that. And then for those that don't, that same information would be given to them on Thursday before they leave. Enough work to keep them going for 2 weeks. In some cases, that last week of school, for example, at the high school, they only see the last 3 days were final exams. So they only saw, those kids were only in those teachers only saw the kids twice that week, on Monday and either Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, depending on when their exam was or something like that. So they would have enough, they would get the work on Thursday of this week if they did not have online access. We would not distribute more computers, just because we don't know what January is going to look like. It's not worth it for 2 weeks. In January, if we decide that this continues because of COVID, I want kids back in school in January. Honestly, I do. And to your point, our kids learn better and our teachers teach better when we're in person. Absolutely, no argument there. But it's just a matter of doing it in a safe manner.
Leslie mentioned the childcare area.
Uh-huh.
Is that gonna be offered here at Chino?
So we have what we call the Student Support Lab, which was available when we were in person. When we were doing the hybrid, we had the Student Support Lab available on those off days, and that would continue.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what do you think these high schoolers do? Do you think they stay at home, or do you think they get together with their friends? Because I'm gonna tell you what they do.
Oh, I don't.
They get
I don't
together
doubt
with
that.
their friends. So I'm gonna encourage them all to lick each other so we can get this and we can move on with our lives. Because I'm not for keeping these kids out of school.
I know, and I don't know your experiences. My experience I've had more people that I know either close contact or contract COVID in the past week and a half, 2 weeks, than the prior 3 months before that.
And I have too, and guess what? They're all better now. And I'll tell you another thing. My sister has 2 children that go to Prescott School. She was bawling, crying today when she found out that they told that she's struggling so bad with her 4th grader in math. She goes, I can't teach her. We struggle as a mom and a daughter. We're trying our best to make this work, and she was beside herself. And that's one of many. I mean, like I said, I'm telling you what I know firsthand, and mine is that my 16-year-old has been going in every day to get help and is barely getting his head above water. You know what my biggest fear is? My biggest fear is him wanting to drop out right now. A super smart kid wanting to drop out because their grades are so low, he's crying. Oh gosh, he's gonna hate me that I said he was crying. That he was crying because he doesn't feel like he can get his head above water. And he's one of how many? This is where I'm coming from. You guys, we're not doing our kids any favors by taking them out of school.
My concern, though, is what school looks like today is not what it's gonna look like next week, and it's not what it's gonna look like the week after.
What is the average age of our teachers and staff?
I think it's about 50. Is that yeah, so it was, I think I had Karen do a census. I think about half were over 50 and a half under 50. So it's significant. And we have teachers, I think just in the 70s, we have 2 teachers in their 70s that are very active with kids. They do more in their 70s than a lot of our teachers in their 20s do.
Right.
I have 3 things. My first one is the Yavapai Health Department's recommendations are off of the state's recommendations, right? I mean, these are things that the state has said we need to have done before you go into all in-person learning.
Correct.
Is
The
that
benchmarks
correct?
that they discussed are the state benchmarks.
Okay,
Correct.
thank you. Number 2, do we by any chance have any statistics off the top of your head? How many of our students are being raised by their grandparents?
Typically in the low 20%, so between 20 and 25%.
Okay. And then third, I see there's 3 principals here. Could we just get an opinion? Just to take, anyone?
And an honest one.
And
As
if not,
Julie
I
sits down.
respect that. If not, I respect that.
Why don't you come on up, if you want to just come up to the microphone if you would. Come on. And we're going to pick on all 3 of you
Come on,
guys.
Julie.
I'll stand with you, Julie. Well, I'll stand with you.
Good, thank you. My concern as an administrator is bringing our students, I agree with Annie, our kids need to be in school. You won't find anyone that does not agree with that. But the fact is that I have older staff on my campus, and I have a lot of staff members that have health conditions. And, you know, they're reaching out to me wondering what they should do because they're scared. And if they don't have a health condition, then their spouse does. And I have some that if their spouse gets it, it could be deadly. It's scary. Let me tell you in a scenario. If in my school, I have right now 3 to 4 teachers that possibly would stay home due to COVID, right now being on the rise. We don't have the substitute teachers right now. Right, even today, let me see, yesterday I was short, last week I was short a sub for 2 days. And I'm pulling teachers and I'm combining classrooms. So they're not gonna get adequate instruction if one teacher has 60 to 65 students. There's no way it can happen. You're gonna have students on the floor sitting because there aren't enough desks in a classroom. I mean, and that is my concern and my fear is that we're not gonna have the substitute teachers. And when you have a substitute teacher, they're doing the best they can do to follow a lesson plan, but they're not getting the lesson that their teacher would give them. They're not getting that adequate lesson. And we're fooling ourselves to think they are. And so I can't even imagine being Heidi and having 18 staff members out. There's no way she has the subs. So you've got those high school kids, double, triple, and you have a teacher that's basically babysitting because there's no way they can teach that many kids. And your kids aren't gonna get that instruction. So that's my fear, is that we're not gonna have the staff. And then what are you going to do? Well, not you guys. What are you going to do? You guys are going to go about your day. But what are we going to do? Because we don't have the substitute teachers right now. Because the majority of our substitute teachers are older.
Yep,
And they're scared.
yep.
They don't
wanna
want
come.
to come right now.
Yeah, we have, they've called and said, love your school, love them, love the district. We're not coming until after this is all over with. And I'm not complaining, but, you know, Brian and myself and Marty, when we were short, were in classes, doing the best that we could. Probably did a little better than some subs, because we've all been teachers, but, and for me, it's a matter of, you know, we have a number of kids that are calling in that I'm forwarding to Catherine to find out if they have, they're waiting to hear if they have COVID, and what, have they been in a classroom, and we're quarantining, and I'm worried about my teachers, I'm worried about my kids, and I just know that it's hard, especially at the high school, we're so specialized, taking anything away. Good teachers are needed everywhere, but you can't get somebody that can do chemistry or math or those things. They just don't have. Most of our subs don't have it to begin with, let alone now we're working with needing even more.
And I just want to say, today, just today, I took 2 phone calls, parents. They're pulling their kids out. And that was before they knew anything about this. They're scared with the COVID numbers going up, so they asked me, they wanted to let me know they were pulling their child until after Christmas, and then they would make a decision of what they're going to do. So, yes, I think it's split. We have parents that want their children to be in school, and we have parents that are scared to send their kids to school. Because they know that their child may recover, but there may be someone in their home that won't. And so our families are split.
So I have a question for you guys. So your teachers, like, and tell me if I'm wrong, we're talking about is sticking it out the next 2 days, and then the teachers preparing work for the next 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So how are you gonna get your teachers to prepare 2 weeks of work when they need to teach these kids the next 2 days?
Well, I'll tell you, Annie, I'm going to have a staff meeting tonight. So I'm leaving this board meeting tonight after.
Because that's asking the teachers a lot.
I know. Let me tell you. I'm having a staff meeting tonight via Zoom. And after this board meeting, after your decision, to let them know what they need to do. And they have to teach tomorrow. We get on campus at 7 o'clock. Students go into classrooms at 7:30. My teachers do not have a prep. They get a 20-minute lunch is all they get. And so when the students go home at 3:05 tomorrow, they will have to stay until they have 2 weeks worth of work put together.
That is a lot.
That is a
Asking
lot. A lot. It's asking a lot. You're right. It is. And that's why I want to have a staff meeting tonight, because I want them to have I want them to lose sleep tonight. It's basically what I'm saying, because they're going to have to be thinking. I don't want to slap them in the face with it in the morning, because we don't have prep. We don't have time to do this. So they will have to work late tomorrow. You know, a lot of teachers are prepared already. They already know what they're doing those 2 weeks, and so they just have to pull it together.
A lot of the high school teachers, they will know what they were gonna do next week, a lot of it review and getting ready, and then they will give their finals. So they kind of have everything organized in their mind or whatever. It is gonna be work, I'm not taking it away, but a lot of teachers who have the experience and have taught the class that they teach for years, that's already organized and planned out, you know, for all teachers at all levels.
Because if they had to quarantine, they'd have to have 2 weeks' worth of work ready for
Right,
their
yeah.
substitute
So they've
anyways.
been preparing for students who are already quarantined.
Yeah.
I am asking for there to be some type of plan from teachers that lead to our children's success if this is the route that we go. Because I'm telling you right now, as a parent, my children have not done well with the way that the learning has been. And my children are no dummies, okay? I do not want dropout kids. And if my kids are already struggling, there's other kids that are struggling too. When Miss D'Angelo just gave her recommendation about the college, we need to come up with something. We need to get these kids to pass, and we need to make sure that we encourage them to stay in school. Because right now we have a lot that are not wanting to be in school, my own child included. So something needs to happen. My kid has a D in PE in middle school because there was something that didn't add up when she was doing her online. That's bullcrap. And you want to know what that does? That it does not encourage her. If anything, it makes her feel like she's not doing what she's supposed to be. And she did. There was just something that was messed up. She's one of how many kids in our district? So there needs to be something set up that help these kids to be able to pass. Like, we need to have some leniency. We need to figure out something to where they don't drop out. That is my biggest problem right now. I care about our health, don't get me wrong. But I also look at the statistics and I look at the reality of all of this, you guys, and I think it's ridiculous. And I think that our children's education is the most important thing that we can offer our children, and to watch. Well, I mean, my kindergartner, he's got the most fabulous teacher, but he's just right now getting the hang of everything because we're just been back in full on in-person instruction. And I'm so sad about this.
Annie, we wouldn't be standing here if education, if the
Yeah.
child's
I know,
education was
I
not
know,
important to us.
I know.
I want that to be
Yes.
known. We would not, believe me, we would not be going through this pandemic and in education right now if we did not care about kids and their education and their future. Because I'll tell you, I did not have a pandemic class going through getting my master's for principal.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and, I mean, we're all going through this for the first time.
Yeah, yeah.
And we're all doing the best we can do, and we want the best for the kids. But we have a larger picture we have to look at.
Yeah.
So, when these kids get their homework, do they have the ability to reach back to the teacher to get clarification on what
Yes.
they're?
Our staff, the
Yes.
plan is for the staff to be there every day.
They'll be on campus
Staff
every day in their
day.
classroom.
In their
And these-
classroom.
And they know how to reach their instructor?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, and they can do it by Zoom?
They can
or-
do it, they can, if they have a computer, they can Google Meets, they can send them an email to set up the time.
And
They
call
can
'em.
phone call them if they need to, if they don't have that access. The teachers will be there during those hours. Some will probably be there later too and earlier, but that's the minimum. And,
Heidi, we also have people prepared to
Right.
tutor online who are
Right, right.
already tutoring online.
yeah.
I have another question. So, you know, I know that sometimes it's hard to get a hold of teachers like that. So what the plan is, I just want everyone to be clear, okay? My phone is blowing up because people think we're going back to hybrid. People think we're going to do this, you know? So you're saying that the teachers are gonna be in their classrooms and they're gonna be virtually teaching and available to the students? Or tell me how this is gonna work.
Go ahead.
Oh, not virtually teaching, because we're not deploying devices again. But if you have access, we will have Google Classrooms. Most of them still have their Google Classrooms, they're just not active, just like they were doing in the beginning. Sorry, I talk on silent. But they will have it. Our online will stay as is. So just since this morning, I've been role-playing in my head, how can I make this as easy, because it's not easy, as possible for our staff? I already have a teacher per grade level. I have it much easier than they have it, sorry. I already have a teacher per grade level that has pre-recorded lessons that is already ready to go for next week, because they pre-record for this week. I'm hoping, my plan is, and I have, my staff knows I'm gonna call them tonight to get online and do a Google Meets as well, to just tag into those already pre-recorded lessons, so the lessons will continue normal for the kids. What we will have to do is then prepare packets and be ahead. I did today at DLT ask if we can teachers stay late tomorrow, and we figure out some things with them later on. Because yeah, it's a lot of work, and it's a panic for all of us. It is, it's not easy for anybody, but at the same time, my teachers, as much as they don't want to ever go back to online, it's getting scary. And when you see people and the phone calls are coming in, and I'll be honest, I just got off of quarantine because, most of you know, my husband tested positive. He's not recovering great. He's recovering, but it's a slow process. He has no energy. He's back to work because he's fever-free, but he's not the same person yet. And I keep thinking, wow, this is doing something. And I just wanted to say, get over it, it's a man cold. Sorry, it's not.
And remember, this is being recorded too.
So, I wanted to be that way, but now I've seen it. We lost a family member due to it, and my mom also has it and has been extremely sick where I thought we were gonna lose her. Now it's real. I know people, it's not so far out there that it's not touching me. Is it affecting students on my campus? Not right now, and it typically doesn't affect them, but I have to think about, I have a lot of kids on my campus that are being raised by grandparents. And I had a phone call today, right before I came, that I need to go back online because I can't put my son at risk anymore.
Yep.
And so, parents are already thinking, being proactive with it. Some parents are not, and it's a split. It's one of those, you're gonna upset, we can't make everybody happy, and we're one way or the other, I can't say very well. Half are gonna be happy, half are not gonna be happy, and we're not gonna please everybody, but if we look at the global, our district globally, we have to be safe.
Gotcha.
And I don't want the responsibility of somebody, and I spoke up today, can I keep my preschoolers online? And reality is, somebody commented, are you willing to risk a teacher for that? And I said, I haven't looked at it that way. No. And when it comes back that way, that makes it real. I don't want that on my shoulders, that I put a teacher at risk or a family member at risk because they came to school with me. I was not for keeping kids at home. I'm not for keeping kids at home. I want them at school. I don't want that burden on me that I wasn't responsible because I was thinking of me, my family, or just my little school at this point. And that's where I'm at. And I'm torn. It's been heartbreaking for me.
So
that
I
decision.
a question so we're coming up on the semester finals. So there's a lot of kids that are banking to do good on these finals
Yep.
to pass their courses. Something needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know how this works. We struggle, everyone studies and gets really ready to take those finals. And, like I said, I've got a 16-year-old that's banking on doing good on these finals because he struggled with the online. So I'm just asking for extra help. I'm asking for something to be done to make sure that these kids succeed.
And I can say as a leadership team, and that was discussed today in our meeting as a leadership team, that we are working to make sure that we are giving the students all that they need to be successful and to help them get through this semester. And they have to be prepared for next semester as well.
Right.
And so, the teachers are gonna make those individual decisions on their own as far as they may wanna postpone their final until January, come back and do a big review and then give them the final. They're all gonna make that decision on their own, but we are gonna be there to guide them and make sure it's the best decision for the kids.
Okay.
And one of the things I always stress to the kids, most of my kids have phones, very few don't. Call your teacher. If you don't call them, they're gonna be there. And they're gonna have time to, it's up to the teacher. Dual enrollment has its own rules within that world, what they have to do, because they have to finish by the 17th or the 11th. But the teachers will be flexible, and that's one of the things that we're gonna talk to them about. If a student does really well on their final project or assignment or test or whatever they're gonna do, and that they haven't done so well, why don't you make that weight more? Those are kind of suggestions we can give to a teacher.
We
And we're
could
happy to.
postpone sending out the
Right.
report card. We could extend the semester and wait a couple of weeks until kids get back in January. Our goal is to be back in our classroom with all of our children January 4th.
Well,
And
our
that's-
goal was to be back August, too.
Well, truthfully,
Let's be honest.
truthfully, right now, what we're looking at, it's 7.5 days. That if we can get 7.5 days, I'm much more willing to say, let's do 7.5 days versus now we're a whole nother until March.
Yeah.
If
We're
we
just
can get
looking
us,
at-
because the
yeah.
short term right now, kids are exiting right and left. I mean, we have 2
Yes.
pages of kids today that called in, just, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it.
Okay, one last question. If a teacher has to quarantine while we're on distance learning, do they have the opportunity to, if they're well enough, to teach from home?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yes. Most definitely.
Any more questions? Okay, so this is
Thank you.
this is an action item, so would someone like to make a motion?
I'm not ready. I would like something else out of this. I think, so our plan is to finish out the week, and then come Thursday, the teachers will give the kids more give them their homework.
If they need it, because the kids can also access it online.
They can access it. Do you think that these next 2 days is enough?
Yes.
I think so.
Okay, so in reality, what we are doing is we are basically extending our winter break by how many days?
I wouldn't say that it's extending the break. What I would say is that we're gonna be at home learning for 8 days.
8 days,
And
okay.
actually to I think someone's point, 7.5. That,
7.5
you know what,
days.
and for all schools, we were a half day on that last day. For the high school, it's the last 3 days were half days of instruction, or actually they were final exam
Because
days.
finals, right.
Right.
And Cindy, you are confident in the fact that you say that the teachers will be ready in 2 days to give 2 weeks worth of homework to our children?
Yes, especially because when we're this close to the end of the semester, everybody's planned because they know because they know it's near the end.
Okay.
And so everybody's planned, and one of the things that we would really benefit by being able to hand the kids their work on Thursday who don't have the ability to interact online, if we waited and had packet pickup, we would have very low percentage of kids, parents come for the packets, knowing that we could encourage the kids the next 2 days, you gotta be here, because we're handing it to you.
Okay.
Ensures that we can put it in the hands of almost every kid.
And we are going to make sure that our teachers are reachable, that by
Absolutely.
parents, by children,
To-
and we're gonna do.
To their point, the
why they're
requirement
coming.
is that our teachers are actually gonna come to work.
You gotta be on
Okay.
campus.
Now they're gonna be in their classroom all alone.
Right,
So there's no issue about, social distancing, because it's ultimate social distancing, one person in a classroom.
Right.
But they will be available by phone, by email, and by the Google Classroom. That's expected. I think at the younger kids use the Classroom Dojo and some other communication tools.
And every classroom can be direct dialed. So it's not like they have to go through the school switchboard and it might be, busy or they weren't even pursuing transfer. Every single classroom can be direct dialed.
okay. And with that, as in closing, I want to make sure that our teachers and our staff do everything to help our children succeed, to pass.
Absolutely.
Because that's my biggest concern right now.
And I'll-
Because if these kids are failing, it's not gonna do anybody any good.
And I'm with you, Annie, and I'll tell you, all the way along, personally, we gotta have the kids in school.
Yeah.
That's been my stance all the way along. I'll tell you, we were in 100% agreement today that we need to be at home learning starting Monday, 100%.
What about the special needs population?
We, part of the leadership team is Nicole, Dr. Burdette. It was her request that the special needs kids stay home. The special needs kids are typically have more medical issues, they're more medically needy.
Far more
And-
vulnerable.
And that, being on campus, the two of the 3 quarantines that we've had at the high school have been in the center's classroom. Just because those kids have more interaction with the adults because of just, they're more hands-on. That's just part of the program.
Yeah.
Those kids need help, and that's an adult helping them.
Right.
And there's a higher likelihood of issues because of that. So Dr. Burdette's recommendation was we keep at least for the next 2 weeks, what happens in January, we'll all have to decide, or you guys will decide, but at least for the next 2 weeks, her recommendation was that those special needs kids stay.
We have 2 active cases. She texted me when she said, "Can you please share this if it's appropriate?" We have 2 active cases in our centers, students who've been in our centers classroom at the high school. And what John's saying is 100% accurate. The kids are extremely vulnerable. And so and our kids interact, they're not contained in that classroom all day. We have kids that are in unified, kids that have lunch in the mainstream and things like that. And we're really seeking to protect all our kids, our most vulnerable kids. And the other thing is, we've had a lot of people call in who've been exposed in the community to something, our adults who work with kids, and we have no control over. People who become afraid about coming to school could call in and say that. We have no way of knowing. And so the trend everywhere that we're seeing is we have less than 1/3 of the subs available that we typically have, and the trend everywhere has been that staff hasn't been coming. We've been lucky compared to other districts.
I'm just gonna tell you, I am gonna vote to keep our kids in school, so that's gonna be my vote, okay? But I'm gonna tell you right now, because I'm pretty sure that, I don't know how everybody else's vote, but come January, these kids are all back in school, and I don't care what the numbers are. This has gone on way too long, and I will fight tooth and nail to make sure that these kids are back. So this education is, I know that this is important to everybody, but the recovery rate, you just heard her say what it was on children and adults. So I'm gonna let this be. I think I've spoke my piece today, but I'm gonna let you know that I will fight tooth and nail come January 1st. So the kids will be back in school.
Well, gosh, I hope the numbers are there.
You better every
Good luck, guys.
So, this is an action item.
Good luck,
Thank
you
you,
two.
Annie. And I think the majority of us are in agreement with all your comments, Annie. Because we all want the kids back in school. But we also want our teachers and staff to be healthy and safe. So this
I'd like my
is an
child to have a
action
teacher.
item. So could someone make a motion, please?
It says.
The
is
motion
this-
would be to
Th-
move to
this was-
distance learning,
Just,
to move
you guys need to
100%.
make what you think should happen.
Yeah.
I'll make a
Make it
motion to move to distance learning for the remainder of the semester to
Beginning-
starting Monday, December.
7th.
Thank you, 7th, to be reevaluated come our next board meeting.
Okay. Motion on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Motion passed. Item 10A.
Just so you know,
Okay.
I'm gonna be sending out a connected to families and staff tonight to let them know what's going on. So, you know, we have families that need to make arrangements, since that's the case, and so that information will go out tonight. Matt's here, and he is our public information officer. He'll get information out, so we will have that information out as soon as possible so people can make plans.
Yeah, I'm gonna say something. I want us to step in. I don't wanna put this all on our teachers. I want the parents to know that the administrators are available as well, and that we encourage you to reach out to us if you need help with anything.
And what's your phone number, Shirley? Because my phone's blowing up. What's yours?
Don't call me for math help.
So, my number is not a secret. So anyway, I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Blake.
Item 10A, board calendar and for 2021 and 2022.
So, there is a request that we change our board meeting dates to the second week. The reason is, really for budgeting purposes, we have 5 months in which we have either a budget revision, a proposed budget, an adopted budget, annual financial report, something's happening that's due on the 15th. By moving to the second week, that gives us an extra week to get the data and the information going. Hence, that's why we have a meeting next week on the 8th, because we needed that extra time. So the request is to do it the second week. Penny and I were talking this morning. We initially had thought about the second Tuesday. The town council meets on the second Tuesday. So really, I think it would be better served for everyone if we did it on the second Monday of the month. That would give us an extra 4 days of 3 days of work in order to get that budget properly done and budget documents taken care of. And so that would start in January. There is a calendar highlighted in yellow. All you have to do is move one day to the left to let you know when those days, our new meeting days would be. So our next meeting after the special meeting on Tuesday would be January 11th.
Any discussion? We need a motion, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the, what am I approving, 21? I'll make a motion to approve of the dates and time set for the 2021 and January 2022 Chino Valley Unified School District Board meetings.
And if you could just mention the second Monday of the month at 5 p.m.
Second Monday of the month at 5 p.m.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Item 10B, recognition.
Do you have it up there?
I do.
Perfect, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't see it. You want to come around?
Oh, sure.
Yay! I have to
You
tell
too.
you.
Come on, Robert, I don't want to stand up here by myself.
I am so sad that Robert is leaving because we got on the board together, Robert, and now you're leaving me. And I don't know, I think you're really smart because you're going and I'm here for another 4 years.
Robert. Robert has been a member of the Chino Valley School Board, District Board, for the past 4 years, representing the business community. As a father and a business owner here in Chino Valley, having his support to make education a priority has been invaluable. Thank you for always stepping up to the plate, whether it was to dish up Thanksgiving dinners,
I missed that
support
this year.
support athletics, or participate in meetings. We thank you for all your help over the years, and thank you for always putting our kiddos first. Thank you so much.
Thanks for doing it with me.
That was not social distancing, Danny.
The
I'm
last-
sorry.
I didn't shoot it.
Last year has been a crazy one
It
with all
has
this COVID.
been difficult.
Bittersweet.
Thank you so much for your service.
Yes,
It's
thank you.
been great to work with you. And I am going to start getting chiropractic adjustments shortly, but, so I will continue to see you, but thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You never know what happens. I might be
Yeah.
back.
Okay. Item 10C, swearing in of the new board members. Mr. Carter, thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming.
I'm sorry
Mr.
you had to
Carter.
wait.
No problem. Madam President, members, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It is always a pleasure to be with you. Sorry to have all of this fall at the same time that you're dealing with all of the other issues, but certainly want to thank Dr. Bowen for all of his work on the board, and we want to welcome 3 newly elected board members. Of course, Mrs. Mortensen will be staying on the board. Mr. Atuna will be returning to the board after some time away. And of course, Mr. Fogel, I think you know, is a longtime educator and staff member in the area. So I'm going to need to do a little paperwork with them at the end of the meeting. Their terms begin January 1st of 2021, and they go through December 31st of 2024. That sounds like a long time, so it'll go by really quick. So, Mr. Superintendent, folks in the media, where would you like us to be so that everybody is
Maybe the district
comfortable?
sign behind them or something?
Yeah, we can just go right in front of that podium.
Yep.
That works fine with me. So if the 3 of you would come on down and distance as much as you can, I'll back up a little bit here so I'm not right in front of you. And what's important is pictures of them, not of me.
Go right there with Annie around that little horseshoe would be good. Would you like to join them, or?
No, I'm fine where I'm at. I just need everybody to be
Robert,
ready.
if we can, I'm just going to slide that out of the way for a moment.
Oh.
Here you go, Betty.
My.
Yeah. You good? And you're set. Okay. Folks, are you ready? You'd raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, and state your name.
I, Mike Vogel,
Do s- That's fine. Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States of America
of the United States of America
and the Constitution and laws
and the Constitution and laws
of the state of Arizona,
of the state of Arizona,
bearing true faith and allegiance to the same,
bearing true faith and allegiance to the same,
defending them against all enemies,
defending them against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
and I will faithfully and impartially
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of a governing board member
of a governing board member
for the Chino Valley Unified School District
for the Chino Valley Unified School District
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,